This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Welcome to the, I guess actually first ever elections town hall for members. Something we've never done before, but being everything's moving virtual, we figured it would be a great idea to let you all know ahead of time how elections are going to work this year. So you'll hear all about how everything's going down, how to vote, who gets to vote. We've got some changes that we're attempting to make, and we'll let you know all about it. And so I will just turn it over to our elections chair, our past president, Sarah Curry.
Thanks so much, Erin. And I'm really just so glad that that story about Sarah's evening was, I wish it had been recorded, if only. But it's great to join you all here today. As Erin said, I am the past president of the AIAS, which means that I'm also the elections chair, which is a really fun role to have. We wanted to have, just like Erin said, this meeting so that we could go over the logistics with you all. And if there's anything we love in the AIS, it's the nitty-gritty logistics. So we're saying we're going to be giving a lot of information tonight. Some of it you've probably already heard, but some of it maybe you haven't heard before. At any point in time, if you do have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat. If it's quick, I'll try and answer it right away. But if it maybe requires a bit more explanation, then can definitely save it for the end. And by end, I really just mean maybe in 30-ish minutes, because we definitely want to give you all plenty of time for questions. So we'll stop talking eventually, don't worry. What I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about the governance of the AIS and what you yourself will be voting for in the coming month. And after I get through that, I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Takatatsu to talk about delegates and being in good standing and the logistics of that endeavor, followed by President Aaron Conti, who's going to talk a bit more about the Council of Presidents meeting specifically, and how you relate to that and fit into this wonderful puzzle that we call the AIAS. So I'll just go ahead and hop into it. In the category of information that you probably already know, I just wanted to briefly outline what is the governing body of the AIAS and how it affects you on the day-to-day and on a larger scale. So one could pretty easily interpret that the governing body of the AIS is also known as the Board of Directors. And in our organization, it's a pretty thick board. It's made up of mostly students, but also a few non-students to help us get all the work done that we need to in order to serve you as members and then also serve architecture students in general and at large. So if you weren't aware, our Board of Directors consists of two officers, a president and a vice president, one past officer. We've got 4 quad directors for the 4 quadrants in the contiguous United States, and then we've also got 2 international ambassadors for our Middle East and Latin American regions. We also have 1 executive director, and then we've got 3 liaisons from our collateral or allied organizations, which would be the AIA, the ACSA, NCARB, and NCARB. So, like I said, a pretty thick board. Most of them are students. How does that relate to you? Obviously, the board meets frequently, but also periodically for longer periods of time to go over different matters that relate to the AIS, whether that's something like, hey, how are we going to work through this conference this year? Or the members are concerned about this aspect of their membership. How can we address that? And then also to larger issues, for example, what the NAB is going to start requiring for accrediting architecture schools and things of that nature. So it's a wide range of topics, and that's why it's great to have a diverse board that's going to be knowledgeable and also look out for you at all times. You, as a member of the AIS, can run to fill any of those student positions or recently student positions. So that means that you could run to be a quad director, you could run to be an officer, and you can also be appointed as an international ambassador. We're not going to talk too much more about international ambassadors today, but if you ever do have questions about those positions, then you should definitely contact the Council of Global Reps or President Conti, who's the liaison to that committee at this time. So, like I said, you're voting for you will be voting for several positions on the board of directors come forum time, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a second. What that kind of means is that you're voting for a group of people who are going to represent you in many ways. So whether that's they're making a decision on your behalf, maybe you don't get to know all the details because of either the urgency of the situation or the confidentiality of the situation, you are voting in who you can trust to make sure that they always have your best interests at heart, even when you don't know everything about what's going on. You also are voting in someone who you trust to make sure that you do know what's going on at all times. So that includes conveying information, of course, between you, the membership, and the greater board. That's a really strong relationship between you and your quad directors. You want to make sure that anything you're going through, they are able to relay, and anything that's going on, they are able to relay to you. And then another relationship you definitely want to keep an eye on is, of course, how your officers represent you as a student and, of course, our organization to, quite frankly, the world, but maybe in a more specific sense, the other allied architecture organizations, both domestically and abroad. As a past officer, I can say that there was never a day that was the same as yesterday when you're working at the AIAS. And so that is what makes it exciting, but that's also what makes it pretty unpredictable. And I will never not be grateful for being trusted with such responsibility. And it definitely contributes a lot to the growth of our officers, which is what I think the AIS is all about. Really quickly, I'm also going to outline a bit of the roles and responsibilities, which I started touching on. And you can read so much more about this on the website, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. But very briefly, I'll just explain again that quad directors, as well as international ambassadors, are volunteers. They, like you, are usually going to school or are recent graduates and are starting a job. They are doing everything they do as a quad director, in addition to leading their normal lives. And we always try to appreciate and celebrate and compensate them in any way that we can. But they are essentially volunteers that also receive gratification from you all, I'm sure, of course, right? On the other hand, you've got two officers who are elected usually, but not always, during sort of their final years in school, because they will almost always move to Washington, D.C. to work full-time in the office. Obviously, I'm using air quotes because of the times we're living in today. So just keep that in mind. But that's what your officers get to do. It's their full-time job. It is their day job. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., they are working for you, and probably from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next day, they are still working for you. In addition to doing regular sort of office-related things that you might imagine, they are often engaging in speaking engagements. They're going to other board meetings. They're in a number of other committees for other organizations. And of course, as we've seen of our officers this year, they're often on panel discussions and leading different things, again, all after hours. So it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. And making sure that we have the right people representing us in all of those ways is part of the responsibility that you all have to carry come forum time. Speaking of forum, I think we can all take a second to think back on forums of the past that we may have been to. If you've never been to a forum conference, allow me to paint you a picture. What typically happens is we all arrive and descend on an unsuspecting city to have a great time around New Year's. We catch up with old friends we haven't seen in forever, and we start meeting people that we have never met before, but obviously have similar stories to because, frankly, design school isn't too different. It turns out once you get to know other students. We all get together for a long weekend of learning, of exploring, of again getting to know each other, and of taking up this mantle of believing in something that is greater than our architectural education. All of that stuff is still going to happen this year. Don't you worry. I know I'm really looking forward to the Forum Conference, and I'm sure you are too. What will be a little bit different this year is, of course, we'll be experiencing most of our things through a screen, but that doesn't mean that we can't be any less interactive with each other. We can still obviously meet new people, have really deep and inspiring conversations, listen, and of course reflect on a year that is ending, and making plans for a year that's beginning. In that same vein, the elections process perhaps normally would have included you maybe stumbling into someone and then you have a conversation with them and then, oh, it turns out they're running for office and now you're having this really deep and engaging conversation with someone. That can still happen, and hopefully will still happen, although a little bit less of the physical bumping and more of the intentional seeking out, but not in, of course, a stalkerish way, is what will be on the menu this time. So I'm going to go through a few of the opportunities you as a member will have to link up with your candidates. And these opportunities may evolve slightly, but as you can have hopefully learned to expect from all of our AIAS conferences, there will be information shared and overshared and reshared multiple times throughout the conference to make sure that everyone knows where they are supposed to be and can be at any point in time. So if you've been to a forum conference before, you know that there's often a Council of Presidents meeting that sort of happens early on in the first half of the conference. This is another logistics building situation, but it's also one of the first times that maybe you get to hear about your role as a delegate of the Council of Presidents, and also maybe get to see a lot of the candidates up front. That is still happening, so no differences there. Once that's kind of gone down, the first time that you'll get to see the candidates speaking as eloquently as they can and as nervously as they certainly will be is during the short speeches. Those happen during one of our first or second general sessions of the conference, and that's still happening, so no real differences there. You'll still be applauding, just, from your couch or something. But again, all the same vibes. What maybe might have normally happened was sometime in the middle of the conference, there would have been a nice evening. We would have all gotten together. There would have been snacks involved, and Council of President delegates and candidates would have been locked in a room together, and we would have just forced you all to have deep conversations. And while we can't lock you in a room, the snacks are hopefully still available, and we'll definitely still provide an opportunity for Council of President delegates to chat with the candidates specifically, and in not quite a one-on-one capacity, but a small group capacity. So stay tuned for more information about that as that develops. Fourthly, I think I'm on now. There will be, of course, another speech situation. These speeches will be just a little bit longer, and it's sort of a closing period for you as a member of the AIAS to hear one more time why these candidates deserve your vote. And after that is concluded, it's sort of wrapping up the evening, if you will, and sunsetting the elections process. Normally there would have been a party. It'll be like, I don't know, the 5th of January. So we'll just celebrate that it's maybe a Thursday or Friday or something. And then the following day, you'll get to vote for your incoming board of directors. what would have happened normally with the voting, and I'm going to speak a bit quicker now because I realize I should be moving on. What normally would have happened, I'm just caught up in the reminiscing, is that you as a Council of Presidents member would have walked into the big room. You would have, when it was time to vote, you would have stood up and like walked over to like a very secret voting booth. What it'll be this time is actually still the same electronic voting process that we've always used. So if you're familiar with that, then that won't be changing. But you'll just be doing it at the appropriate and notified time from the comfort of your home or dwelling. So we'll let you know when it's time to vote. You'll still get the code. And if there are any technical difficulties that you're experiencing, Ashley Ash, Director of Membership, and all things AIS will still be around with myself in obviously a virtual booth to help out. So it'll actually go a little bit quicker, and hopefully we'll get through any difficulties that may arise. Per the rules of the AIS, a candidate has to win the majority of the votes. And so if you've been keeping up with things lately, that means that if there's a candidate that doesn't make over 50% of the vote, then we have to go to a runoff until we come between two candidates. So you may vote once in a race where there's more than two candidates and then have to vote again. And it's not a big deal. It happens all the time. And sometimes there's no runoff. So no need to be alarmed or surprised, but that's how it's going to go down. Once we've all voted and I know the results, I'm not going to make eye contact with anybody for several hours. We are going to reveal to the candidates who the winners are. They're not allowed to tell anyone anything. And then very shortly after, we're going to tell everybody. And obviously, it'll be a really exciting time. Moving on from what it'll feel like, now that you've kind of got the gist, in case you've just been imagining faceless people running for office, I hope that you've already seen the Meet the Candidates page for this year. If you haven't, let me just pop it in the chat. This is the official list of certified candidates for this year's slate. Hopefully you see a few people you recognize and maybe some people that you don't, but are looking forward to getting to know. I cannot encourage you all enough to read through the packets. They're not too deep, and it's not going to take you all day. I'm not saying there's going to be like a quiz or like any reading comprehension involved, but I do hope that you take note of things that interest you or that maybe you want to contact that candidate to ask them more about and get their feedback on. It's really great to especially turn to the pages about their answers to the questionnaire because they all answered the same 6 questions. So it's really easy to compare what their responses would be to those. One important thing to note is that these candidates cannot campaign in any way, shape, or form before we get to the conference. So what does that mean? That means if you said, oh, hey, buddy, I saw that you were running. Like, can you tell me what you would do if you were elected and why I should vote for you? They can answer your question. They literally cannot. So please don't put them in that position and make them have to awkwardly look at you and avoid eye contact. What they can do is tell you that, yes, they are running and they're so excited to be doing so. They can direct you to this page to see them and their fellow candidates' packets, but they can't have too much more conversation than that prior to January 5th when we get on site, if you will. So save all your questions and all those in-depth conversations you want to have until then, because that's when we'll really get into the good stuff. And so thank you all in advance for your cooperation with all of that. I think that's all I had to go through. So I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Sarah Takatatsu, and I'm sure she'll let me know if I forgot anything to go over.
Thank you so much. That was very comprehensive, and I'm wistfully thinking of forums past now, so thank you for that. I will breeze through my portion of the things to tell you all, because I think you probably already know them. I get to talk to you about who gets to vote, and as you probably know by listening already and kind of understanding your role in the AIAS, our Council of Presidents gets to vote in this election, but they do so representing their entire chapter. So if you are not a president, you should definitely be talking to your president, the one who actually casts the vote, and make sure maybe you reach consensus, or make sure that everyone in your chapter has a chance to look at these packets and know that this is an important decision for everyone to weigh in on. Another portion of this is, even if you're a president, you can only vote if your chapter is in good standing. It's definitely something we pride in the AIAS, as being in good standing is a mark of a chapter that is dedicated to the AIAS and is working hard to be fully taking a part in all the things AIAS. So if you don't know, being in good standing primarily includes 3 very actionable things. There are a few more that would always encourage you to check out in the bylaws or around the website. The search function, by the way, in the website is pretty comprehensive. So if you don't use that on a daily basis, I know I do, and maybe you should too. But if you search in good standing, you'll find a few resources for you. But the 3 main things to check is that you have 11 paid members in your chapter. One of those paid members, or at least 11, definitely encourage huge chapters if you have the capacity for it. But one of those 11 is your chapter president. Definitely something we also find important is that the one casting the vote is, in fact, a member of this organization. Pretty important to keep the best interests of this organization going. And then the last one is to have paid chapter dues, which is the $275 for the year. And the only exception is if you, actually 2. One is if your school is a collegiate associate, they pay a little bit more to have a little bit more exposure and to get to show everyone some of the awesome stuff that they are doing at their school. But those cover being your chapter dues. The other thing is, if you are going through something specific, you can always reach out to me as a vice president. I do have the authority to waive your chapter bylaws. Not your chapter bylaws. I do not have the power to waive your chapter bylaws, your chapter dues. I can do that if you have a specific situation that we need to talk about, and I am always happy to hear it. And so I will pass it off to Erin to kind of talk about more comprehensive pieces about finding your delegate and getting that locked in. I did want to note really quickly, and we won't spend too much time now on this because it's a little bit more comprehensive, but our bylaws, as the national office tells us, that we should have checked good standing for all chapters. So you can reach good standing any point of the year, but we have a few landmarks along the year for me as a vice president to go in and look at everyone's numbers and see who is and who isn't. And usually that is 45 days before the forum first COP meeting. However, that was back in November. That has passed, but the board of directors did vote to amend that bylaw to actually be not 45 days, but was it 21? A nod, 21 days? Great. That was the number, which is coming up on December 16th. So this bylaw hasn't been ratified by the COP yet, and this is where it gets complicated. So if you are going to be in good standing after this November date that already has passed, but you weren't before that date, there's still a chance for you to participate and vote. We just need that first round of COP members who are in good standing by that November date to pass and ratify this bylaw, and then we all get to participate. So that's a really exciting logistical thing that we get to do, but just noting that if your chapter is not in good standing, definitely try to reach that by December 16th, which is 6 days away, as it is December 10th right now. So if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me, but I will pass it off to our lovely president to talk about delegates and COP and all the amazing stuff of actually getting this election done. So exciting.
Yes, thank you. My favorite thing to talk about. So I'll tell you a bit about what being a delegate means and what you have to do to get all of the materials and everything necessary for the Council of Presidents meeting. So all chapters in good standing or not in good standing participating in COP must confirm who their delegate will be with me. Even if you are not a chapter in good standing, you can still participate in COP, and you should, because you can still participate in discussion. You just cannot vote on any changes to the bylaws, any decisions made, or the elections. But you can still participate and discuss. That's really important. But regardless, you must confirm that with me. As of now, all chapters that are currently in good standing should have received an email from me that says all of this, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. And if your chapter is not in good standing, this will also be emailed to you, so you don't have to memorize it in this moment. But the chapter president, by default, is the delegate of your chapter. But if for some reason they are unable to attend the Council of Presidents meeting, they may appoint another member of their chapter to serve as the delegate. To confirm your delegate, the chapter president must confirm with me by sending an email with your chapter name, the name of the delegate, even if it is yourself, and the email address that you want the agenda and all other materials to be sent to. In order to be in compliance with our bylaws, I, as the chair of the Council of Presidents, must send out the agenda to you no later than 15 days before the Council of Presidents meeting, which is right around the holiday. So there is no strict deadline necessarily for you to confirm your delegate, although I highly encourage you to confirm your delegate to me by December 16th. If you do not do it by that day, although I really hope you will, you still can. We can talk about it, and I will be tracking basically up until the Council of Presidents meeting to ensure that everyone who wants to participate is able to. But just get out of the way. Send me an email. Would love to hear from you. I've heard from many of you already, but there are still a lot more I have not. Some of you on this call. But if no one from your chapter is able to make the meeting, if you are a chapter in good standing, this applies to you. You may request a proxy. And so this would mean another chapter from your quad that is also in good standing would, their delegate would vote on your behalf. So to do this, just let us know and we can let you know what chapters in your quad could do that for you, and we can get you connected, and you just both have to give a thumbs up, let us know that that's what you want to do. Even if you're not attending though, still you will be sent the agenda. You have to make sure you read through it and understand it and tell your proxy how you wish to vote, any feedback or conversation you wish to provide throughout the meeting, so that they can do that for you. COP is really important. It is mandatory as a chapter president. It is part of your responsibility as a chapter president or the delegate appointed by your chapter president to attend, because you're being the voice for your chapter and for your members within our organization. There will be a lot of important discussions and decisions being made that impact the future of the AIAS, especially when we're going into this next year, and the delegate votes on behalf of your entire chapter. And this includes elections, as has already been talked about, but I'll say it again, it's so important. So please, if you have not already made plans to attend the Council of Presidents meeting, please let me know and send me all your information. It will be taking place over 3 separate days, a little different from our in-person meetings, but with timing and time zones, we're trying to make it easy for everybody. So these dates will be January 5th, which is the first day of the Forum Conference. From 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have the COP orientation and part 1 of our meeting. The next day, January 6th at 11 a.m. to just about 12:50 p.m. Eastern Time, which is before the conference programming starts, will be the second half of our meeting, and we will wrap it all up on January 8th at the same time, 11 a.m. to 12:50 p.m. Eastern Time for the final part of our meeting, and of course, voting for the national elections. And so, as Sarah already stated, there has been a decision made by the Board of Directors, an amendment passed to change the good standing timeline for your chapter. But as she also said, and I'm just going to repeat it for you because it was confusing when we were figuring all this out, so we just want to make sure it's clear. because of this change and how complicated it is, Vice President Takatato has been really hard at work tracking chapters in good standing for both scenarios. So if you are in good standing by the 21st, you're pretty much all set. But if you are not and you're still working on that before the 16th, during that first portion of the COP meeting on the 5th, the very first thing we will do as the Council of Presidents is vote on that amendment to ratify it. And should it pass, being voted on by all those chapters who were in good standing by the 21st, then all the remaining chapters who got in good standing after will be able to vote through the rest of the meeting and in elections. So I know that was a lot. I apologize. I hope it wasn't too confusing. The last thing I will say, all Council of Presidents events are free. While we really hope that you've registered for Forum and will be attending the entire conference with us, we understand it might not be possible for everyone for a variety of reasons. So even if you are not attending the conference, you are still able to attend the Council of Presidents meetings. Those links will be sent to you with the agenda and the materials sent to all confirmed delegates. If you are not a delegate and you are still interested in attending, there will be a separate link sent out so that you can observe. We just keep it separated because of how we have to take the vote in a virtual meeting. We have to limit the number of people who are in the call just so we can keep everything good and keep track. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. If I did, hopefully my vice president or past president will remind me, but I think I can turn it back over to past President Curry now.
That was great. So yeah, this evening we've thrown a lot of information at you, and some of it, again, you've heard before and is sitting in your inbox right now. And if it isn't already, then it will be soon. So just keep posted for those bullet points. But at this time, we're going to open it up for any questions that anyone might have had about anything that has been said or not said this evening. I see we have a question in the chat about adding time zone information to the forum schedule, and that sounds doable to me.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, Northeast Quad Director DeFranza.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I just wanted to ask, in case anybody on the call or anybody watching this recording was wondering, there's a thing called running from the floor. How does that work?
Shannon, I'm so glad you asked. So, if anyone perchance didn't hear about our call for candidates that came out, and let me preface this all by saying this could happen to you this year, it could happen to you next year, it's happened in the past, and it will definitely happen in the future. For various reasons, you may have missed the deadline to hit all the things you needed to hit in order to run as a certified candidate. All is not lost. This year, we don't have any uncontested races, which simply means that all races have at least 2 people running for them. However, if that were ever the case in the future, the instructions I'm about to give you would be just a little different. It's all written in the bylaws, but I'm going to go through what's happening this year. So, an undeclared candidate for a contested race still has to submit a candidacy declaration packet to myself, the elections chair, prior to the Forum Council of Presidents meeting, the first one that happens. You may have heard President Conte say that it's also the orientation. So you'll get that to me. We'll have a little bit of conversation. It'll be great and everything will be fine. Once I've received that and we've had that discussion, you'll attend this Council of Presidents meeting, whether you're there as like a chapter leader or not. A chapter delegate who is not from your chapter has to stand up and say, I nominate so-and-so for the position of quad director or officer. After that, another delegate must second the nomination, and that is how you are allowed to run alongside your other fellow candidates at the forum conference. So There are a few other things that happen. I don't mean to make it sound this way, that happen to undeclared candidates. They don't get to give a short speech, but they do get to participate in all other activities, including the long speech. So you're still able to get to know them. You're still able to read the details of their packet and ask some questions about it. But it's just a slightly different process and happens all the time. Thank you, Shannon. All that, by the way, is printed at the bottom of the Meet the Candidates blog post. In case you know anyone, send them my way. Any other questions? Sarah, Erin, and I could talk all day about elections, so
Yeah, can I ask a question?
please.
So if I wasn't the vice president at the current moment, if I was like super jazzed about this one candidate, like maybe they're my best friend or something, what can I do during this election? Can I campaign for other people?
Excellent question, Sarah. So the short answer is yes. As a member of the AIAS, you can campaign for, you can engage with other AIAS members, voting, able to vote or otherwise about the candidate that you are jazzed about. We hope that you'll exercise like a general amount of not common sense, courtesy, I suppose, and obviously not go out of your way to say anything negative about any other candidate, as that would actually violate the code of ethics of the AIS. However, you're welcome to say positive things about your candidate, or perhaps a candidate who's running from your chapter. At the end of the day, what will happen is it'll all come down to the vote. And once the vote has been made and the announcements have been made, then that is who has been elected as our incoming board of directors, and we'll move on from there. But you can definitely campaign. You're actually encouraged to, again, read all of those packets. It'll make it easier for you to campaign for your favorite candidate if you read everyone's packets. That's a pro tip.
Can I add on to my question? Is there a time when I can start campaigning for my candidate, or can I start tomorrow?
Sarah, the best questions. You cannot campaign. In fact, no one can campaign, as has been stated, until the first day of forum. So, again, if someone is like, hey, do you know this person who's running? Aren't they your best friend, and aren't you so jazzed about them? You can say, yes, thank you for asking. I can't wait to tell you more on January 5th, 2021.
Thanks for clearing that up, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
I had a question.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Rachel.
Hi. So I know that the COP reception is still happening. The candidates will be able to talk to the delegates. Is there any scheduled opportunities for the candidates to talk to non-delegates and kind of just get a feel of just the general members?
So, and President Conte can back me up on this or refute me if I'm being incorrect. There won't be any scheduled time for candidates to speak to non-delegates about elections specifically. However, I believe that there will be time for everyone who's attending forum to interact with each other, whether that's in like your quad breakouts or your networking breaks, or on any of the other interactive sessions that'll be happening. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. There is at least one, if not two, on some days networking breaks throughout the conference. And that is when you would be able to do that. But there are no, I guess, separate events specifically for elections discussion with non-delegates.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Well, Erin and Sarah, I guess we just explained everything so clearly that there are no more questions at this town hall for open questions.
Yeah, can I ask you, as the elections chair, if maybe I just need to sleep on all of this. This was just a lot of information. That's how I process information, go to sleep and I wake up and I have all these questions.
Wow.
Who do I get in touch with? What do I do with these questions tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning after you've slept, or even in the middle of the night if you wake up with a nightmare about AIS elections, feel free to shoot me a message. You can contact me via email at pastpresident@ais.org. You can also Slack me on the national AIS Slack. I am not in any quad Slacks, so please do not message me there. If you have and I have not replied, I apologize. I'm just not on those channels anymore. But that's the two easiest ways to contact me. You can also contact me through a current quad director or officer. If you ask them anything, I'm sure they'll pass along the message and not keep it from me. But feel free to reach out to me directly. And I'm happy to schedule also like one-on-one calls to go over any of this stuff. Similar to kind of how we've just broken it out. If you have any questions about elections specifically, then direct them to me. But if you have any questions about being a delegate or a proxy or the Council of Presidents meeting in general, then those would go to President Erin Conti.
Thanks for answering my question, Sarah.
Thanks for asking all these great unscripted questions, Sarah.
Anytime.
I had a question. I don't know the answer, but I know we talked about COP delegates coming to the COP, but is anyone else allowed to attend COP?
Yes, anyone who is interested in observing the Council of Presidents meeting may. There will be a separate link to observe from, just because for voting purposes and keeping track of the chapters that are voting, we can't have too many people within the call, but there will be a link sent out for anyone to observe if they would like.
And if I may, it is a great opportunity for encouraging maybe younger students in your chapter to get involved, to kind of give them a chance to see what it's like. Maybe some of the first years who you're trying to get to run for positions in your own chapter, kind of see what it's like at the national level. Definitely exposure is definitely a really great way to get that energy up. So would encourage a huge COP watch party, that sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Sarah. And I would say it's easier than ever to do that. Those who've been to past forums recall the Council of Presidents meeting usually takes place while other great programming is going on. And so people sometimes don't take the opportunity to observe because they want to go do something else, which is fine. But the second and third COP meetings, there is no programming happening at those times. They're going on before the conference starts on those days. So definitely do some shoulder tapping for future leadership of your chapter and have them see what it's all about.
Well, I don't want to keep anyone longer than they want to be kept, which is a good rule for life as well. However, maybe Erin and Sarah, we could throw out some like quick takeaways or like things to do next. So let me know if any of these sound a little off base, but if you are a general member of the AIS and you are not necessarily the one who will be attending the Council of Presidents meeting in order to represent your chapter, then after this, I recommend that you go check out the Meet the Candidates page on the AIAS.org website, review all of the candidates in your quad, and then also the 2 officer positions, and mull over it for a while. The other thing that would be great for you to do if you're registered for forum is make sure that you're receiving all the information that you need to be, and make sure that your chapter president knows that there is information that they should be looking out for. If you are a chapter delegate for your chapter, and hence are a chapter delegate, then what you'll want to do is make sure that you've let President Conti know that you will be serving as that delegate. If you can't make it, then you should again contact her for information about proxies and get that taken care of right away. You should also peruse the Meet the Candidates page and make sure that you've checked out all of the potential candidates that you are able to vote for. Again, start compiling those questions, but don't ask them yet. They get better with age. And if you are neither of those parties, then oddly, you should still check out the Meet the Candidates page and read through all of the, again, amazing candidates that are hooked up for our slate this year. It looks like we actually have another question in the chat from Nicole. I'll ask it for her if she's okay with that. Is the COP meeting recorded and shared with AIS general members? President Conti, will the COP be recorded at this time? Sorry.
I will say at this time, and this could be subject to change later on, but I will say at this time, we do not have plans to record it, but as with all Council of Presidents meetings, the minutes taken by our lovely Vice President and Secretary, Sarah Takatatsu, will be made available to all members after the meeting.
And they take time, so, you know, read them or something would be cool.
Oh yeah, gotta double check them for all the news that's fit to print. One last takeaway item before we actually let you all go is that you should definitely know whether or not your chapter is in good standing as of today. So if you don't know, then you can either ask your chapter president. If they don't know, then you should definitely get in touch with your officers to confirm. They will let you know what you can or cannot do in order to get in good standing by this deadline that we've mentioned, in order to be able to vote and participate in a ton of other really beneficial activities for chapters in good standing in the AIAS. So if you do nothing else, then please check on your chapter's status as being in good standing, and then check out that Meet the Candidates page. But if there aren't any more questions, then we really will let you go now. It's been great chatting with all of you. This is being recorded, and we are all witness to it. So it will get up on the website soon, so that people who couldn't join us tonight can still check it out. And all this information is also available either, again, in your inbox or will soon be in your email inbox from one of the 3 of us. So thanks so much to y'all for coming out.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.